neighbors. I'm Mac McCarty, bringing you another episode of the Rough and Tumbled. Certainly want to thank all of you for tuning in, for supporting this channel. It's been a real privilege to share these stories with you. And as I've said in other ones, I know some of you are out in the harsh elements. We've been having temperatures down in the teens and the 20s with a very cold north wind. So I know it's tough out there working in that environment. Hope you were able to do something to pull you inside or what have you to get out of the elements. But a lot of it's out there. That's just the way it is. Well, this story today is not about a funny tale. It's a more on the serious side. And it happened when I was very young, I think 19, and working with an old boy that was, I want to say maybe 22. Now this guy, I thought the world of. He was just a good guy to work with. And the events that happened in this video in no way reflect on him, but rather on the people that sent us to do the job, because we just simply didn't have the training to be prepared for what we were dealing with. So keep that in mind. I haven't seen this fella in 50 years or better. I still think the world of him. Just a fantastic guy to work with. Well, this happened on a well in Kilgore, Texas. We were sent over there to change a motor out on the back of the pumping unit. You know, those motors get burned up by lightning or old bearings go bad, whatever, and you have to change the motors out. You know, you got a well that's sitting there pumping 24/7, it's going to wear out. That's just the way it is. Well, we were sent out there, and we set up on the well there, and the motor, and we were, the electrician told me to bust all the skids loose, you know, and get everything ready. And so that's what we were doing. Got our old big wrenches out, and we were busting this thing down. Got that old motor off of there. Set the new motor on. Started tightening the skids up. Of course, we had to line the pulleys up, you know, the sheaves, to get the belts lined up where they'd stay on properly, run right. And once we got all that done, this electrician, again, young guy, you know, we just didn't have the training, but he says, go ahead and sit there and tie this motor on. Well, I've got a little pumping unit right here, and this is kind of an example of how it was. This motor, I have to think of the terminology we use out there. I want this to be a clean family channel, you know, family friendly. But the motor junction was right here. And so I had to sit right down in here with my back against this gearbox right here and wire these wires in right here. So I'm sitting down on this steel skid with my back against this steel gearbox, handling these leads right here and tying them in. And of course, talk about grounded. This thing's sitting on the ground, and you've got this rod string going over 3,000 feet in the ground. So you're talking mighty well grounded. And so I'm sitting there making these leads up, and the electrician decides to look into the control box. Keep in mind, he was learning, you know, and he was a curious fella, you know. He wanted to learn and was constantly working on trying to get better at what he was doing. Well, let me show you again. On the pump unit, the stub pole with the control box stood here that operated the motor. And so for him to look into it, his back was to me. I was here, and his back was to facing this thing, put his back to me. Well, he goes to looking in that thing, checking things, curiosity, and I'm sitting there wiring that motor, I'd made up a couple of leads there and hadn't taped anything yet, but it was sitting there. And he decides he wants to check voltage and stuff at the top of that starter. What he didn't understand and experience would have been a mighty valuable thing right now. Again, I don't want to in any way implicate him, because this was not his fault. This is why organized labor trains their people, schools them for 5 years, prepares them before they ever put them in a situation like this. And then you have to pass stringent tests to even be able to go and do it then. And so, again, no reflection on him, but he's sitting there trying to figure this thing out. He turned the main on. Well, normally if you turn the main on, no voltage would go to the motor. The starter would block all 3 phases. But in this old antiquated starter, it did go to the motor, one leg. And this was a corner grounded delta, so it sent nearly 500 volts straight to me. I'm going to tell you something, folks. When you got 500 volts right in your hand and you're sitting on all that steel grounded deep in the earth, you're a dead man. You're a dead man instantly. There's no hesitation. This is instant death. It's electrocution. It's all of the sudden. Well, I don't know if any of you have ever been shocked or hooked up in power, but I'm going to tell you that kind of voltage, and you're hooked up and you're grounded. I've heard people say 120 will hold you and kill you. 220 will knock you away. Don't believe any of that mess. Any voltage will cause muscular freeze, and I was locked up, holding it tighter and tighter. Oh yeah, I wanted to get out of it. Oh yes, I wanted to pull away from it, but there was no way. So I'm sitting there hooked up in this stuff, a dead man. And absolutely no way to get away, and your body's just vibrating. Oh, it's like 1,000 jackhammers going off inside of you. And it hurts. And I look at this guy's back, and I could not holler. I could not say a thing. I just had to accept the fact, I'm gone. I'm gone. And so I realized I was crossing into the beyond. I was leaving this world. And you know what I saw? Next thing I saw is old St. Pete up there opening the golden gates. And he looked down there at me, and he goes, "What do you mean, boy? This is not where you're going. You're supposed to go down there." Well, I'm just teasing, folks. I didn't see St. Pete. All I saw is just the vastness of darkness, blackness, nothing. I was about to go on to the beyond. Well, about that time, as I'm sitting there vibrating and hurting so bad, I felt something grab me under the armpits and lift me straight up out of the jaws of death. Pulled me out of it. Now, it had to pull pretty hard because I was hooked up in it. Couldn't let go. You're holding on so tight. It takes some power to pull you loose. Now, think about it here. I'm sitting here with my back to this gearbox. There was no room for anybody to stand behind me, but they did. So I'm telling you, folks, it had to be an angel. A spirit being that could stand in that steel gearbox, grab me and pull me straight up out of it and not be affected by that voltage. And so I was spared from death that day. Y'all have to talk to the Lord about that if you still having to put up with me. But he decided it wasn't time for me to go at 19 years of age. And when I got stood up, of course it let me go, and I'm standing there, and I'm just wore out like somebody had whipped me for all day long. And I'm looking at this guy's back, and he had no idea what was going on. And finally, when I could get my composure and get a little bit of strength back to me, I screamed at him and hollered at him, and he turned, and the look on his face was shock. And he felt terrible. Again, folks, it wasn't his fault. That's what happens when you send men out there to do a job and they haven't been trained properly. But that's not the point of this story. The point of this story is that there is a power in our lives. There is a power there available to us every day. This power from above is more powerful. Well, there's just no comparison. I've seen the Blue Lady sing. That's what I like to say when that high voltage starts just dancing all over those poles and what have you. It goes crazy. It'll make the bravest men run. It will. And all of the power I've seen doesn't even come close to comparing to the power of God. So guys, this here is in recognition to our Father in heaven, who's there and has our back every day. I hope you understand that, because I'm a living testimony to the proof of that power, that spirit world that is as real as that sun coming up every day. Folks, I hope you appreciate this story as much as I take pleasure in sharing it with you, as I do all the stories. But as you go through this life, realize you're not alone. And again, I wish you the best out there. I know what you're up against. All of us need to realize what's involved as we bring these conveniences that we so appreciate every day. There are people whose lives are on the line every day so that we can enjoy them. Again, I ask that you hit that thumbs up button, on there, and just touch on that subscribe deal, and it'll subscribe you so you can get more of these. And let's share it, if you would. I'm okay either way, because I get joy if just one of you lets me know that it was a pleasure or an encouragement to you. Thanks again. This is Mac McCarty, again signing off with the Rough and Tumble channel.